Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this lovely April 2nd Friday for a brand new First Friday here at the 567. So I am thrilled to introduce this new show for April, which is called Roots and the River. And this is all work done by the Ocmulgee Artist Guild, which I am the president of. And so very, very happy that we are finally able to get back together after a long year of hiatus due to the pandemic. We all kind of needed to go our separate ways and find ourselves in our own minds in that time. So it's been a true pleasure to be able to come back together with fresh artwork. Some of you guys may recognize a couple of these pieces from a few of our 2019 shows, but a large majority of this work has been produced throughout the pandemic, and so much of the work here that we're going to go through today is brand new, and we're very excited to get to bring this to you guys and offer it. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and jump on in. We have 10 different guild member artists featured today out of 14 guild members that we have. A couple of them are either out of the state or doing their own thing, but we are really, really thrilled to get to showcase the 10 that we do have. So we're going to go ahead and jump on in, and I'm going to start us off with Richard Smith. All right, and I'm actually just going to turn around here, and we will start on over in Richard's corner. So Richard Smith, he has been a member with us. He joined about 2.5, maybe 3 years ago now. And so he has been steadily honing his work. Funny enough, actually, 2 of the guild members, Richard being one of them and Thomas Held being one of the others, I went to school with in elementary school. Richard Smith and I were actually in 5th grade together, and I will never forget that Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon were incredibly popular at that time, and we used to do lots of drawings of Yu-Gi-Oh! Characters. We used to create scenes in class together, and Richard always had an extraordinary, steady and delicate hand. And so, of course, here we're starting with one of the abstract pieces of Richard's, and we're actually going to jump into another one. So Richard, he has kind of gone all over the place now. So not only has he started doing abstract works, and of course representational works, which we'll jump into here in a minute, but Richard has done a lot of mural work over at Reboot, Retrocade Bar and Grill. He's a big, he and his wife, Naya, are big game fans and gamer fans, and so he did a whole lot of the work over there. He's helped us on a couple of our own mural projects as well, but he's also an incredibly talented pen and ink artist, and so we have more of his paintings in this show than ink works, but in the past we've had tons, dozens and dozens of his little miniatures. All right, so this one here is called Empty Head. I'm going to zoom in on this one for a minute because it's one of my favorites of Richard's right now. And so Richard has kind of fallen into a catfish series, which is awesome. Hello, Susanna. Hello, Jessica. It's good to have you guys on. Hello, any other guild members who are on. And of course, this show, guys, will be up. This is very different for the guild, but we will be actually running this show for an entire month here at the 567. We usually are known for our pop-up one-night exhibits, but this one is viewable all month of April. All right, so this one is called Prey here and continues on Richard's catfish series. So it's underwater crustacean taking on this catfish here. I love this one. I love the little pop of red in here on the otherwise black and white piece. Kind of has almost a comic book vibe to it. And then a third one of his catfish series. This one's titled Deep Down. You got Empty Head and Deep Down, and then it turns into Prey. All right, so this is our Richard Smith corner over here. Really, really fantastic new work. All right, we're going to shift on over to our next artist here, and this artist is Brooke Scott. As many of you guys may know, Brooke Scott is the vice president of the Ocmulgee Artist Guild and has been my right hand since we first started this project off about 6.5 years ago now. So yeah, the Guild has been together, and actually we're also really thrilled and honored to be able to showcase our work in a gallery setting, because again, that's not something that we tend to do in such a way, and to be able to do it here at the 567, because it was the kindness of the 567 and Melissa that allowed us to start hosting shows in the basement before the basement was a pottery studio here. And so we used to hold a couple of our very, very first pop-up shows right here at the 567 downstairs. So it's a lot of fun to actually finally come on up and upstairs. All right, this piece is called What Am I? And I think this is one of my favorites from Brooke here. Let me turn around the corner here to see if we can't zoom in with a little less glare. But this is a mixed media piece, so it's got stenciled backgrounds with some cut out paper pieces, and then this whole thing is actually resined over, which is what gives it such a glossy, beautiful sheen. All right, and then we're going to jump into unknown number 5, and I'm actually going to set the camera down here so we can get a good still shot of this. This piece, some of you guys may recognize. This is actually the featured piece on our postcard for this month's show. And so we did a nice cropped in zoom on this piece, but this is it's a really fun piece. And Brooke is not generally a painter. She certainly uses spray paint and stuff, but this is actually a hand painted piece. And this goes into kind of what Brooke has done for the last many years, which is these contour faces. She's done lots of pieces with these contour faces, but usually it's single off faces. This is a giant compilation of faces, and I just think it's stellar. All different types and varieties. All right, and of course, guys, the 567 gallery is open Monday through Friday, 11 to 4 o'clock. You know, a lot of these pieces are behind glass or do have resin on them, so of course it always ends up reflecting a little bit of the overhead lighting that we have in here. So I certainly encourage you guys to come on down Monday through Friday, 11 to 4 for the month of April, and come check these works out. Take your favorite one home and put it on your wall. All right, this one's called Field Full of Secrets. This has a bad word in it, so children, shield your eyes here. But I love this piece. This is very indicative of Brooke. She loves to kind of create these sarcastically vulgar pieces that have this kind of dark comedy to them. But again, got a great stenciled background, and then of course she's got these mixed media women on top. She goes through old books and likes to cut out lots of phrases and sayings from books, and those kind of inspire the pieces themselves, which I think is a really cool way to go about building up your work. All right, so that is Brooke Scott's section over here. Really nice work. Okay, we're going to shift on down now, and this is Shannon Riddle, and I'm sure many of you guys recognize Shannon Riddle's work, probably from a multitude of areas, but Shannon was our art professor actually at Middle Georgia State University. He taught a lot of us drawing and painting. So a lot of us have kind of built onto the style that he has himself, and since that was what he taught, you know, you'll see especially in like Thomas's works later down the line, you've got some of this more heavy impasto technique where the paint is really just built up on the canvas itself. But Shannon is actually one of the original Ocmulgee Artist Guild members. When we were the Student Art League at school, we ended up basically running into doing art shows there, had the issue with the school itself and having to fill out paperwork to do things and everything else. So at the time, our main mentor and kind of art godfather, Charles Ward, who was one of Shannon's colleagues at the time, who helped start back up the Student Art League. When we ran into issues with the school, he basically said, well, if the school's going to make it challenging for you guys to do a show, why don't you go on down to the Arts Exchange, when the Arts Exchange was still over on the corner of Mulberry, and go host a little student art league show there. And he said, call yourselves the Ocmulgee Artist Guild or something. And we all went, the Ocmulgee Artist Guild, that sounds great. And took his advice, and Shannon came on down and joined us. I don't think he was a part of the very first $3 art show, but when we moved over to the 567's basement the following year, he joined on in and is one of the OG members of the OAG. So this is Pee Wee Herman here. I'm going to shift on down and show you guys. Shannon likes to deal in portraiture. He tends to take a lot of celebrities, and he kind of likes to reinterpret the celebrity into his painting, and within doing that, he's able to bring life to historical characters or film characters and actors. Jeffrey Dahmer is one of his kind of artistic idols, if you will. He's got a massive Jeffrey Dahmer series. And Pee Wee Herman, of course, that we were showing over here. He's got a number of different Pee Wee Hermans. So he tends to like to stick with a character and then kind of, continue on within a series for them, and tries to pull out the humanity within them. And this one is E number 3, and this is actually just a model that Shannon knew and had done a mini series around. But this is a exquisite piece, and it sounds even that we just sold it, which makes it even more exquisite. We're happy to see that it's going to go to a good family and a good private collection. All right, we'll continue on down over here. So this is Hannibal Lecter, and the actor is Mads Mikkelsen. And so this one was done in 2015, so a touch of an older piece for Shannon, but I love this piece. I love the depth that Shannon was able to get into this. This one is really cleanly finished off. Sometimes Shannon's works have that heavy impasto technique to them, so the paint is really built up, and the closer you get, kind of the more abstracted it is. Of course, from a distance, it looks photorealistic, but as you guys can see on this one, this is a really, really well blended piece here. So, of course, all of these works are for sale, so we would love to see you guys come on down Monday through Friday, 11 to 4. Come find your favorite and take it on home with you. We've got a lot of different stuff in here right now. All right, so these are 3 of the Shannon originals. Now we're going to move into one of his master's replicas, and I love Shannon's master's studies. We've got one more on our large brick wall that I will quickly flash over to. And so this is a Caravaggio reproduction. You can see Shannon's a master of light. He's got that technique of really doing that kind of chiaroscuro darkness into light with a lot of his paintings, but this one absolutely shows that off very well, and shows you that Shannon really can really fall into whatever style he needs to accomplish the idea of the work that he's trying to get across. So Shannon actually he did a couple of Caravaggio studies, and one of my favorites that he has up at the school, I believe, over at Middle Georgia State University in the hallways there, he's got Caravaggio's self-portrait, and then he basically took himself and recreated the self-portrait itself with Shannon in the piece, and those two come as a diptych, basically, as a two-parter, but they're exquisite. So, all right, let me quickly flash on over to this other wall and show you guys the one other piece here by Shannon. And let me zoom on in here. So this piece is called The Duel After the Masquerade. Let me zoom out and give you guys the full image, because it is a relatively large canvas here, as I'm sure you can see. And this piece is a replica of Jean-Léon Gérôme. And so this is a Gérôme piece, and it's just fantastic. I love the colors. I love the whole idea behind this piece. Shannon likes to play kind of with the clown itself. He's got another master's replica of the clown, but you can kind of see the clown in here who's been stabbed after the masquerade itself. And there's the offender being led away. So a great piece, a really, really fun piece to try to recreate, and I think Shannon just nailed it. All right, so that is our Shannon Riddle section. We are really thrilled to get to showcase some of his pieces and are very excited to see what he's going to work on over the course of this year as he falls into his new series. All right, next up is Jessica Whitley, hopefully soon to be Jessica Pendorf. This is my fiance's work. Jessie was not an art student up at the school with us. She was an NMAC major, but she ended up falling in with the art crowd early on while we were all still part of the Student Art League. And so Jessie has been an original member with us and now holds the Sergeant at Arms position for our cabinet for the Guild. So Jessie does a lot of mixed media works. She really likes to play around with a multitude of media. Beyond found objects, she enjoys mixing multiple types of paint and doing a lot of paint layers, as I'm sure you guys can see in these 5 pieces. And then, of course, she likes to do the additional add-ons and take lots of found objects and kind of adhere those to the piece to outline or accentuate certain areas. And then Jessie has kind of become a master of resin, and so she has started to resin in a lot of her pieces. Both Brooke and Jessie have been playing with the resin a lot. So let me come on in here and we'll start over here at this piece. Sorry, now we're getting a little bit of the glare from the glass, but this is exactly why I encourage everybody to come on down and come check these works out in person, because you can really see the colors a bit more vibrantly than the camera wants to show them off. And of course you get the ability to view the work from wherever you need to get the light and glare out of the glass. But I love this piece. It's a really simple abstract piece. This was done with acrylic paint and gold pen, and I love the frame that it's in. All right, so we're going to shift on over here to Pareidolia. This is the eyeball piece. I really like this piece as well. I've got a affinity towards Jessie's black and white and gold pieces here, but let me zoom in kind of like we did on Brooke's face pieces, because as you can see, this one is full of eyeballs. There are just eyeballs staring at you everywhere that you look in here, in this entanglement and web of, you know, kind of contoured roots and lines. And again, this piece has a resin coat on top, which is why it's got this sheen in it, which I'm sure you can see me waving my hands there because of the light reflecting. There we go, it's a little bit better. But a really cool piece. All right, we'll shift on down now here. This is called Surfacing. And this is a tall piece, so let me back up a little bit here and zoom out so that you guys can see the full pieces in its entirety. So you can really see with this one kind of what I was talking about with Jessie's process here. So she likes to start back here in her background area. So she likes to build up a lot of these shapes and forms and colors to kind of set the scene of the piece. And then as she's going through the piece itself, she starts to kind of find the face and build out her characters within. And of course, with this piece, you've got all of these glass marbles and fish tank beads. You've got some of these keys in here outlining the woman's head and neck. And then actually Thomas Held, he was the one who helped build the frame for this piece, since it was such a specific piece and had so much built up on the canvas itself. He helped pull that all together. Sorry, I didn't realize how zoomed in I was there when I was explaining that. So let me show you down at the bottom. And this is called Surfacing, so you can see the woman kind of emerging from the water that kind of surrounds her. All right, we'll jump on over here, and this is called Panacademia. And so, you know, I always tend to especially when we're doing major shows for the Guild, I always like to kind of try to give, we always give a theme to the show itself, and then I try to encourage my artists to all work in a method or a technique or a medium that they're not used to working in on top of working in their standard medium. And that kind of goes with the reasoning behind the Guild. One of the main reasons that we really kept the Guild going after school was because all of us art students were very concerned that without the art classes and the art assignments, that we would all kind of stop producing. So we set up the very first show as a means to basically give us a deadline and set the theme like we would on a class assignment, but that actually ended up really helping all of us continue to find new media and hone ourselves and, you know, look at different tips, tricks, techniques, watch what each other were doing, and kind of pull them all together. And so the reason I bring that up is because Jessie had a lot of very anime like figures in her work when she started, and slowly I've been pushing her to explore more kind of representational or realistic style figures. And of course, you know, in her own style here. So this is a really cool piece, all built up. You've kind of got these like white moons that almost turn into these radial lights surrounding this face. It's a very radial piece. All right. And last but not least, this is called Engageable. And this is also a tall piece. Let me zoom out a bit here. Okay, perfect. And so this is also a full mixed media piece. This one is actually got some real similarities to Brooks in the way that Jessie's got this cut out Bjork figure down there in the lower left-hand bottom, kind of looking up and off the canvas so that everything else cascades up above her and almost has this feeling of both falling and flying at the same time. Jessie, of course, put on this massive flower up here at the top that almost reads as a sun with these really cool sequins on them. And then she's got these little mirrors just falling down and bringing you all the way back to home down here with Bjork at the bottom. All right, and so that is Jessica Whitley. Okay, and next up we are coming into Alex Johnson's work. Alex is another full original member for the Ocmulgee Artist Guild. We were all in school together, and Alex and I spent a lot of time in many classes together. We ended up kind of following a very same curriculum throughout the course of our arts degree. And it's always been a pleasure working with Alex. And one of the things that I really admire about Alex, as I do much of the Guild, but especially Alex, is she works across media. She really has never honed in specifically on any one thing, and part of the reason for that is that she's just incredibly good with whatever she touches. She picks up that thing and she tries it, and it always works out well, or she finds a way to make it work. So here you'll see we've got photo transfers that are actually on magnets. We've got some actual standard photography. And then we've got some pen and ink pieces, as well as a mixed media piece that looks like uses some watercolor and some charcoal. So let me zoom on in here. I'll show you guys a whole bunch of her magnets over here. A lot of these were photographed here locally at the skate park or over at Central City Park. But she likes to go for kind of the dilapidated, rundown things, or using people in their environment. All right, we actually have a few more over here. And so these are all magnets and photo transfers onto wood panels. So Really, really heavy duty, well done with some massive magnets on the back. So these would look fantastic on a refrigerator for a fine piece of art that also, you know, can be useful and practical. So a lot of making imagery here between all of these guys. All right, and then we'll come on over to Alex's photographic piece. And let me see if I can't get the glare out of this a little bit. That's a little better. But this is actually Randy Hart. He is a local graffiti artist, and I think this is one of the first pieces that he really did here in Macon locally. And Alex took this photo a couple of years ago now and only had it printed up, I think, in the late end of 2019. But this is called Try Love, and this piece is over a couple of blocks down from the 567 in a kind of a random parking lot right now where we used to host the Macon Open Air Market at. And so a really, really nice photographic piece here. All right, and then these are two of Alex's newest pieces. And again, let me try to get this glare out of the back. But this is like a glitch style piece that Alex is working on. And this one is just titled 2020. And, you know, a lot of the works that we have are not incredibly pandemic related, even though a lot of the mentality behind it might have been pandemic related. But this is a pen and ink piece. And with acrylic on top, and so it's done with the red and the blue, and kind of forms this glitch on top. Yes, Rob. I see Rob just said that, yes, looking for glare-free plexiglass for the framed pieces, and gosh, that would be absolutely outstanding. Even talking about maybe there is some sort of iPhone attachment that would cut down on the UV that I could put over my camera so that it would just help kind of tamp down the glare itself. So yeah, a bit of an isolated piece, but still full of love and hope. And then we'll move into a very different style piece for Alex. And yeah, this is ink and acrylic. I was incorrect about the charcoal. It is ink on top here. Looks like some cypress trees kind of in the early morning dawn. And it is titled Morning Glory. So a really, really nice smattering and mixture of Alex Johnson's work here, really showcasing all the types of things that she can do, plus many more. All right, next we are going to jump on into Eddie Bryant, who goes by the artist name Eddie Grimm when he's with the Guild. And so this is Eddie's section. Let me zoom out so I can get the whole thing in here first. So I am thrilled with Eddie's work, and Eddie is one of the two artists of this group who really utilized the pandemic to hone his creativity, to continue making new work. But Eddie has gotten into 3D printing over the last 2 years and has gotten a 3D printer. And Eddie is a sculptor by trade. He's a mask maker and a welder. Those are the kind of trades that he went with, but he has been honing in on the 3D production work. So let me start off here with one of my favorites. So this is called Murder Shrimp and Death Crab. And as you can see, these are all 3D printed and hand painted figures. And so he uses a program called Blender to actually make the figures themselves. It's got some like predetermined, I characteristics that you can take for these things, but then you're able to manipulate it in this 3D program so that you can really play around and create whatever you want with it. Right before the pandemic, when we were all still hanging out, I got to play with his Blender program, and it was incredibly user-friendly, actually. He's got this tablet that he hooks it up to, so he's basically able to draw in, he's able to reduce areas that he wants to reduce with his pen, or, build up new areas with the stylus, and it's just really crazy. And then, of course, to go and hand paint it takes a whole lot of time. But these absolutely deserve to be viewed in person. I mean, the camera can only do it so much justice, but Eddie has put in a lot of time and effort onto these pieces. So let me move up here to the next piece, which is the gunship model, is what he's got this called. And again, this is another 3D printed and hand-painted piece. This is, like this crazy cyberpunk airplane with weaponry. It's just so cool. So, and again, the camera's getting a little grainy, I can see, and just not quite letting me hone in on this quite like I would like. But I think you guys can get a good general idea of what these look like, and certainly I would encourage you to come on down, and like Kevin just wrote in the comments, come on down and come see these in person, because yeah, these absolutely deserve to be seen in person. And also, Eddie has put the pricing on these for a steal, so I would certainly like to see these go to a good home. All right, so then jump into a few older pieces. These were shown in Dysphoria of 2019, one of the last big shows that we were able to do. But this is Cypher on the left and Valkyrie on the right, and just two pen and ink pieces. So, Eddie is not only talented with his 3D sculpture modeling building, but is also a really talented painter and just a general artist all around. Eddie is also the treasurer of our guild and has been with us since the very inception, one of the main original members. And so it's really nice to see that he was able to just continue on with his creativity and continue to knock out work during the struggle of what was the pandemic and still is the pandemic. This piece is called I'm Sorry. Eddie's always had a great sense of color and blending, and has actually produced many, many successful paintings. All right, and then finally for Eddie, we've got these masks. And mask making is what I really knew Eddie for when we all first met in school. He had been a mask maker for a while then, but as you can see, his mask making has just continued to improve, and having the 3D printable ability has also just allowed him to get much more complex in the masks that he is making, much more, fine craftsmanship, and also allows him to focus a little bit more on the painting and kind of the final outcome version, and a little bit less on the clay sculpting itself, because usually he was sculpting his masks in clay and then having to make molds out of that, turn those molds into the new piece that then he has to pull out, clean up, paint up. So having the ability to do the 3D printed works has obviously saved him a lot of time and allowed him a lot more creativity in the product that he is producing. And so these masks are just awesome. Again, I would encourage you guys to come on down and take a look at them in person, because the camera does well, but they are really wicked in person. All right, and that is Eddie Grimm. Some truly exquisite works. Very technical, very detailed, highly advanced, wonderful to see. All right, moving on. Next, actually, we are going to shift on over to this wall here, and I'm actually going to show you guys a few of my new series here. This is kind of a continuation of the series that I have been honing and working on over the last couple of years. When we did Dysphoria a few years ago, we themed it with the theme of purgatory. I was having this invasive tree species in my yard called the Tree of Heaven, and I started utilizing that as my kind of stuck in limbo, constantly tearing out these trees. So that kind of brought me back into using spray paint and acrylic media to do some sort of natural representation. But this is kind of my newest portion of this series, and so this is using natural found objects to build up these stenciled pieces. These are all done in spray paint. So to kind of continue on as a side series to my Tree of Heaven and Tree of Hell series, these are called Purgatory. And, you know, something I really enjoy playing around with is just color. I've always been drawn to lots of color. I constantly have a tough time getting away from kind of the primaries, reds, blues, and yellows. They just tend to be my go-tos. So I've really gotten into kind of trying to create this almost watercolor effect with the spray paint itself, where you get a lot of these kind of washes of rainbow colors coming through. And kind of my goal with these was to create an almost X-ray-like feeling to them. As I continue to move forward and play with them, I'm going to try to actually take the plants themselves that I'm using and capture their skeletal, their skeletal remains, and see if I can't get those pressed in on top of these pieces. So that will kind of be my next challenge as I move forward in this. But it was a lot of fun producing this. I had just a pretty hard time during the COVID and pandemic lockdowns, and depression hit me relatively hard, and so not being able to be with the guild or produce the shows that I wanted to, my creativity just kind of was zapped in that time, and so it's really nice to be back and producing some new work that I love. All right, moving on. Next up, we have Thomas Held. Thomas Held is the secretary of our guild, and Thomas was in school with us as well, so has been around since the inception. Actually ended up leaving Middle Georgia State after, he came back to Middle Georgia State and then ended up at Georgia College and State University for his bachelor's in art, and I do believe that was in painting. And these are all acrylic painted pieces here. Thomas is much like Eddie. He has spent a lot of the pandemic actually sticking with his creativity, using the pandemic and the time that he had to continue to paint and produce. Thomas has also, on top of teaching a couple of classes here at the 567, he was working with Joe Adams there for a number of months last year, helping Joe frame up. Thomas is a really good handyman and a wonderful canvas builder. So Thomas was actually helping Joe frame up a lot of his works to be painted. And in that time, has taken on a few kind of the tips and tricks of Joe Adams. So you kind of see and feel that a little bit in his work. But Thomas has kind of always gone into this abstracted method. A lot of the pieces that he does, even if they are figurative, have these abstracted backgrounds. But I really like this series a lot. It's very organic and very natural colors. A lot of times the most recent works he's done have been kind of hyper pastels or really vibrant, rainbow tones. And so when he brought me this series, he brought me a ton of stuff and we went through a bunch of it, but this is actually what we decided to go with. I just really love the kind of blacks, browns, yellows, tans, just these much more organic and earthy colors here. So, and these are all basically part of the same series, all titled the F series. So we've got a smattering of F1 through F15 here. Here's a figurative nude next to an abstract. But he's just got a great sense of composition. All of his abstracts always have a lot of emotional feeling in them, both with the colors and the way that the paint is put down on the paper. He's great at just using shape and form, and then mixing that with his multitude of colors, and he always ends up with an exquisite final piece. Come back to center here, show you these two on the pedestals. And for anyone who's just joining us, I just want to remind you that all of these works are on display for the entirety of the month of April here at the 567, and basically all the pieces are priced up and ready to sell. So if you see anything that you like today, either contact us online and we'll be happy to put it aside for you, or come on down and take a look at these in person. All right, so that is Thomas Held. Okay, we're going to jump on over now into one of our newest members, Marcos Velez. And actually, Marcos has already been with us now for a couple of years. It's the 2020 seemed to have just kind of dissipated in there. So we are thrilled to get to showcase a few of his newest pieces here. And Marcos is just an exceptionally incredible pen and ink artist. He's an exquisite watercolor artist, really. I mean, he's across media, but he tends to work in pen and ink. Marcos has been an apprentice over at Redemption Tattoo for the last few years and is finally right at the cusp of becoming a full-time tattoo artist there. So we are keeping our fingers crossed for him that he is finally able to break over into the realm of tattooing. So if anyone is looking for a tattoo, give it a couple of months and go see Marcos over at Redemption Tattoo, because as you can see, he is an incredibly talented artist. And look at the intricacy in here and the detail work and just the fine gradients in his watercolors. I mean, the eggs are just so supple, the nest is so hard and full of chaos. But he's kind of got that almost classic tattoo style. You can see that especially like, you know, here in his flowers and stuff. You know, it's definitely got that 40s, 50s tattoo style. But he's able to take it far more into his own. He has spent years drawing, and anytime I walk into that place or see him, he is working on new flash sheets or a brand new piece for himself. Does lots of commissioned works. You can see here, he kind of goes into that pointillism. He's got some pieces that are very heavy with pointillism, which take hours and hours. So a couple of really simple pieces, but beautiful pieces and just wonderful gradient work. All right, and that is Marcos Velez. Okay, and then last but not least of our 10 featured artists today is DeMarcus Beckham. And DeMarcus does not necessarily consider himself an artist, even though everyone else in the guild does. But DeMarcus tends to kind of be our general house manager. He's been a part of the guild since basically its inception as well. Always just hanging out on the side, helping us with doing sales, making sure everything's running, properly for the events themselves. But DeMarcus works for Georgia Equality. And so this is why the vote piece is so important to him. And this is actually a piece that he created himself about, I think, 2.5 years ago, right as we were kind of coming into the last election cycle. So this is a mixed media piece with acrylic paint on top of all of these kind of found newspaper articles. And at the time, he was working for New Georgia Project. So you've got the NGP swag there in the back and the hashtags. This is actually the second time that we've featured this piece, and a lot of the guild loves this piece. And so we're really happy to actually get a little bit of DeMarcus's artistic representation in here. And DeMarcus actually has one additional piece, and so let me back on up and showcase this one. This is a fiber arts piece that he did. This originally was intended to be turned into a blanket, but we actually were able to talk DeMarcus into hanging them individually like this. And the title of this piece is called Warm Community, which I think is a beautiful title for such an appropriate piece. So we've got the black cloth over here, moving into the brown, and then into the full rainbow that takes you on down to the purple. And DeMarcus hand knitted all of these. And it's just a great piece that really does speak to love and warmth and coming together, even as individuals in a community setting. All right. All right, everyone. Well, really, truly, thank you guys so much for joining us on this beautiful first Friday in April. It was a real pleasure to be able to showcase my guild to you guys in a very different way than we usually do. Again, we usually have these one-night pop-up exhibits. We will actually, all things going according to plan, we will be hosting our 6th annual Dysphoria this October. Everything as far as the info is TBD, but we are really looking forward to coming back and bringing the single night pop-up exhibits that you guys love and enjoy. But we're thrilled to have the opportunity to showcase in a gallery. It was a lot of fun to kind of be able to come back to our roots and to be able to bring this to you in our community. So thank you again for joining us. Please tune in next month for the month of May, and we'll be doing Beth Smith Studios student exhibition. So we'll see you then. Thank you and have a wonderful Friday.